Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into South Carolina sports, football, hoops, the NCAA, everything that comes along with it.
Where our opinions are never filtered, sometimes reasonable, and always fun.
That's right. You can check out all of those takes that we have on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all those platforms. Settle in, y'all, and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game!
Hey, Gamecock fans, welcome back to Alumni Game. We're chilling here. We've taken a little bit of time off in the off season. We've gotten a few episodes in for you. Thank you for all the likes and watching, especially that Cutter Woods episode. We'll talk a little bit more quarterbacks in this episode too. But yeah, hitting the gym, studying the playbook, getting ready for this season. Some changes for all of us personally too. So we're really, really excited to be back with you guys. And we got a fun one today. We got something that we're calling best worst case, where we're going to go through position groups on this episode for the offense of the Gamecocks and kind of talk about, sort through the hype and kind of figure out what's kind of best case of what could happen at this position and into the offense overall, and what's worst case for this position and the offense overall. Because there's a lot of talk about this team and what it could be this year, but what's a little more realistic and what are the ends of the scale? So we're getting into that this week. Obviously, remember to like, subscribe if you guys like what you're seeing. Let us know what you want more of if you like segments like this. Also, our Gamecock of the Week is still out there, so let us know about player suggestions. And I'm excited to kick it back over to my buddies. Tell us a little more about this week, Buster.
All right, so we still have a week left of talking season.
Smells like football.
Into game week. Game week starts next week. So until then, we need to continue the talk. And the talk is out of Columbia, out of Gamecock land, out of the Spurrier football complex, that we got something brewing that could potentially take us to the next level. And one of the things that we look at and we talk about and we prognosticate and whether or not we're going to be champions, playoff contenders, or middle of the pack is how good are we? And one of the best ways to do that is a best case, worst case scenario. You look at each position group and you find out, okay, with the players and the talent that we have on the roster, what's the best case scenario for that position group? What's the worst case scenario? A best case scenario for all the position groups means we're national champions. So how realistic is that? So rule number one is it has to be that realism. So you can't just say best case scenario, LaNorris throws 10,000 yards, 700 touchdowns, no interceptions, wins the Heisman. Technically, that's not impossible, but that's most likely not going to happen. Realistic is they perform at the expectation that we think that they can perform at. Worst case scenario, obviously, technically speaking, it's not impossible that everybody gets injured and the whole position group is decimated, and then we end up losing every game of the season. And not impossible, but not realistic. So we look at things that are based on expectations and based on what we've heard from the camp this fall and summer workouts and things like that, what is realistically going to happen for each position group that puts us in the best position to win.
And then knowing you, Buster, it's all going to be very unbiased and fair.
No, it's completely
Always
unbiased.
reasonable.
Completely
Always
unbiased. And
reasonable.
actually, there is some realism there because one of the things that is tempering our expectation is as much talent as we have, maybe we don't have the experience in some of these position groups, which can kind of change how we look at the potential for the season. So I will be as unbiased as humanly possible.
But I'm picking up a tiny bit different than I was thinking here, but I like this. But one thing you've said so far that I really keyed on, from what you said earlier, makes me think everything we say in this episode has to be best case for us to be a national champion, right? So I'm picturing a Rubik's Cube has different colors on every side, right? And when you finish it, right? So blue would be running backs, orange would be quarterbacks. If every color on every side of that die is not perfect, a national championship is not necessarily in the cards. Maybe a college football playoff, maybe a win in the college football playoff, but the whole thing, from what I hear from you saying, it all has to hit. All those tumblers have to hit, right?
Yeah, if every best case scenario happened for every position group, that doesn't necessarily guarantee us a national championship. What that does guarantee us is that we have the talent to compete at the level of our expectations.
Yeah.
And from what we have heard from Coach Beamer and the coaching staff and a lot of these players is they believe that they are a playoff team. And so if our best case scenario for all of our position groups hits, then we should be saying that this is a shoe-in, this is a lock, this is a cock lock for a playoff contention. So
a cock locked in a box.
Had to get that cock lock in there.
That goes to rule number 2, which if you put your best case scenario at say level 10 and your worst case scenario at a level.
Oh, we're going to 11. Come on.
Okay, we'll go to 11. So if we're going to 11 and worst case is a 1, then based on what we know as fans, as unbiased podcasters, as Joe Schmo, as intelligent human beings, where are we on that range of 11 to 1? Are we closer to having a best case scenario, or are we closer to having a worst case scenario? Based on what we know.
And it's funny, for me, we're going to go a lot in depth on all of these, but out of the position groups we're going to go through, and I'll just list them now so everybody knows and, tune into the part you want. But, hey, listen to the whole episode. We'll start in with quarterbacks, obviously arguably the most biggest position in the entire sport. Look, for me, hot takes on all these, quarterback, best case. I'm feeling really good about that. I could stop right there. But I want to talk about the depth of the position and some other things there. Running backs, I have no friggin' clue because we're waiting on this Faison thing. We'll get into that. I would probably have least confidence there if I had to, pin the tail on a donkey. That would be the donkey. Wide receivers, I know what we're going to say there. What is it after Harbor? And I really want to talk about that because I feel like that's where I put a lot of the responsibility. That position group is getting better this year. Guaranteed. Has to, And then tight end, similar to wide receiver, got to replace a guy. And then O-line, I feel pretty confident in too. I'm not quite there as I am with QB. But I just feel like with the talent that is Sellers and that can motivate that O-line to just say, he is awesome. We got to protect him.
Yeah.
And those are all hot takes. And now I want to dive in to quarterbacks if you guys are ready.
Yeah. The last rule.
Rule. Not
rule number
so
3,
fast, Mike.
Rule number 3: injuries are a cop out because the fact is, in every single college football program, every single pro football program, every single sport program, key positions, key players, there is a chance for injury. We can't help it. We can't predict it or anything like that. Yes. The worst case scenario would be that the entire offensive line gets hurt and we have to go with walk-ons and stuff like that.
Yeah, however, the only time when I really want to talk injuries like that is actively injured, got injured yesterday, or serious history of injury, right?
Yeah.
In fantasy football, there's a couple guys I like, but they're not quite there yet. I still really like Javonte Williams, who's on the Cowboys now, but everyone's like, oh, since his injury, he could still do what he does and he could still move the chains, but maybe lost that burst, and we still need to find that out. And I feel like at running back, wide receiver, that happens, but everywhere else.
That's the thing is, injuries are cop out and say you can't you can't automatically say worst case scenario is a massive injury. So injury can be important, which we'll talk about at the quarterback spot, but you can't automatically be like, oh, well, the worst case scenario is everybody gets injured. Well, no, duh.
And I think the only spot I would have done that again was wide receiver, and I would have said Nyck Harbor has a devastating injury, and then that could throw the whole wide receiver room into disarray. But now that I've said it, I didn't mean to say it, and we don't have to talk about
Jinx, Mike, you're jinx.
No, I'm just saying.
Come on, what are you doing?
When you focus on, again, because of what I was saying with quarterbacks, with the depth there, I'm actually not as worried about nicks and cuts and stuff like that. There were a couple times last season where, I don't know, maybe LaNorris takes a big hit and he's out for a couple plays. Now I don't mind that at all because I know there's confident guys who can run the offense potentially for a few plays. So I feel like that depth just starts to play into the team that you are. And we'll take you through this gauntlet.
We disagree because a quarterback injury, your starting quarterback, your Heisman potential candidate, an injury to him and the guys behind him have not had any significant snaps.
Oh, it definitely downgrades. Yeah,
So,
but I think you've done the best you can to have competence there, guys that can and start to grow. But again, what I meant more was like blowouts, and those guys got to come in or I had the wind knocked out of him, is out for a play or two. All right, we're okay. Can hand the ball off, But anyways, so so we got through the rules there. Good. I think we all understand. And into quarterbacks, obviously, we've talked about Sellers a lot. There's a lot to like there. I don't know if any of you guys have been seeing. I watched a couple of the first episodes of that SEC show on Netflix, featuring him heavily in the first episode. Him and his family out to dinner, probably a couple places in Colombia that you've been a few times, Buster. Maybe we've been when we went. Really cool though, seeing his folks just talking about how they love the program and they love Coach. And a lot of the episode was about Beamer and his history, him hanging out with his kid, throwing the football, talking about his dad at Virginia Tech and how much fun that's going to be for the Beamer family playing that game. Really cool piece of journalism they're doing with that show. A lot of it was LSU to start too, which I didn't love. I don't love him, but
speaking of LaNorris, Sam, give me your best case scenario for that quarterback's room. If we're going to say Heisman, LaNorris, the future, the present, the now. What do you think is best case scenario for the quarterback room?
Man, well, I know we're not supposed to be at 10 or 11, but how could you not be so hyped for him? By the way, first preseason Heisman contender really since, I can't remember, maybe Marcus Lattimore, but I don't think he was even on the Vegas boards back in 2010, 2011. Yeah. LaNorris Sellers coming in at plus 1,800 in Vegas, so you got $100. You might win.
Dude, I saw a thing on Robinhood where I could put I can do something and put money on Robinhood.
They're going into Robinhood. Look, this is by far the best case of all the positions. Mike, you're right. This is it, because not only is LaNorris Sellers an absolute dog, and we love him, and we're going to talk about him. We're going to show some clips of him here in a second. But they have the highest floor because of the number one, you got Luke Doty in the background, right? He's a graduate coming back in, but he's got enough experience. He's been in the system for a while, and he's kind of a smart guy and a leader in that offense. Sure. So got a good head on his shoulders, can keep it very stable should anything happen to LaNorris. You got some studs in Cutter Woods. We had that episode. You can see it right above right here. We had the Cutter Woods breakdown that we came out with just a couple weeks ago. People seem to love that. Buster, phenomenal job breaking down Cutter Woods. Aaron Nolan too, coming out here from transferring from Ohio State. This is like my personal best case scenario is 9. I mean, realistically, if you think about it, you don't want to go like 10 because I guess Arch Manning is the 10, right? But yeah. Personally, for me, the best case scenario is LaNorris Sellers being a top 10 draft pick and the Pittsburgh Steelers taking him. And I get a number 16 jersey for the rest of my life and say LaNorris Sellers is a black and yellow man with the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, that's special. When Gilmore was on the Pats was something I won't forget. I mean, that actually happened for me in baseball with Jackie Bradley as well, and that didn't go as well for him. But he was a great outfielder, but he couldn't hit all the time. But having Gilmore was just like, oh my God, I couldn't believe those worlds came together. I'm super jealous. Super jealous. Go ahead, Buster.
I love that. I like what you said because if we're basing this off of the fact that of LaNorris's potential. So I saw somewhere, and forgive me for not remembering, it was somebody's way too early mock draft. They had him going as the second overall pick.
Oh, second.
Yeah, that is like light years too early, but sure.
If you're basing that off that potential, then best case scenario is that under Mike Shula as our new OC / quarterbacks guru / LaNorris's kind of guidance into taking it to the next level. Sellers takes that leap. The game slows down for him. He's more comfortable with the offense.
These highlights.
He doesn't have to do the 3rd and 16 Houdini stuff.
There he is, Houdini right there.
To do that, but he doesn't have to rely on that. And so the idea is that best case scenarios, Sellers is able to play all the games this season with minimal execution failures or mistakes or anything like that. It happens. Not everybody's perfect with it. So
I almost, some of these plays this year, like those ones where he's running and then he does the thing at the end to barrel through someone, I just don't really want him doing the last thing,
Yeah.
Like go down to the 5. That's fine because you got other guys that can push it in, You know,
Yeah.
a couple times, like on these, like that one, he pulls away from every. I mean, that is just a lot of green. I love seeing all that
I'm
green.
sad seeing this LSU game. It makes me think of a couple of flags, but you know.
Oh man, you know, it was funny because we actually rewatched they go through the LSU game and the SEC game, and I did know what happened, but my wife kind of forgot, and it's coming down to it. And she's like, you know what happened? Like what happens? I'm like, watch it, you know, just watch, because you know, you remember, you kind of remember because you were dozing while we were watching, but and then she was like, oh, it was so close. I'm like, yeah, that's a tough one to feature in the game because that kind of tiny bit microcosm of the season. I mean, we win that LSU game and everything else goes the way it does, and then we have the playoff spot at the end, probably.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's the thing is so you know the idea what we said about the realistic portion of the rules, and the idea to me is realistically, LaNorris improves and takes that fundamental leap that is expected of him handling this offense for the second year, and that his backups between Luke Doty, Aaron Nolan, and Cutter Woods, that we don't have to rely on anything from them except for them to learn from the game experience.
And literally just back up and starts. Like ideally, you know, blow out some teams are supposed to blow out, get those guys in there, get some reps, maybe get a lead somewhere where we can do that. He needs a breather for some reason. You know, we can give him that. That's the most I would say. But I want to go ahead and throw a little bit of a curve in my best case here, because Sam, I mean, I fully agree with you with all of that. I would just handicap it a little bit and just say I want it to be so good that we can achieve all that, but not quite the absolute best, so that he absolutely leaves at the end of the year. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think.
I see what you're saying, because basically his stock could be so high that it could never be higher without injury, right? And so why stay? If we win a national championship, there's no reason to stay, right? Yeah. If we win the SEC, there might not be any reason to stay. The only reason to stay is huge unfinished business and maybe coming in second so close in Heisman that he wins Heisman next year instead. Now, that's so nitpicky as a fan that I shouldn't go there, because that's basically like, you know, I want my oatmeal with a sprinkle of this and a little bit of that, and otherwise I'm not eating it. Yeah. And I think we even get to the SEC championship, and I'm going to eat all of that, you know? So I kind of feel like best case for me is just to really be in the Heisman voting and just play your game and do what you got to do. If someone out there does it better or different because that's what they do, then fine. And then some kind of hardware to go with it outside of that, whether it be an SEC championship, a college football playoff win. I wouldn't just want to get there. I would want a win in that playoff, especially before it changes more. Sounds like they're talking about changing it more. But I'm not asking for a lot. I think, an 8 or a 9, and I'm a pig in shit. You know,
and that leads us to kind of the worst case. Are you going the worst case, Buster? You actually worst case?
We're all best case to start. Yeah.
All right. So the idea here is that we said that injuries are a cop out, but in this sort of sense, because this is a position that is manned by one person. All the other position groups, you have multiple linebackers, multiple offensive linemen. Heck, you have multiple running backs that can be on the field at the same time. You can only have one quarterback out on the field, technically speaking, unless you run some trick plays. So But the idea is, this is the one time where you can say worst case scenario that there is, and it doesn't even have to necessarily be
rule violation.
And I'm not going to say it. It doesn't have to be a long term thing or a short term thing. But if there's something that happens there that disrupts that flow and rhythm of having him as our primary signal caller, yes. Do we have talent in Aaron Nolan and Cutter Woods? Yes, but you have zero experience. You have a ton of experience under Luke Doty, but he has not played quarterback in 4 years.
And he's a grad now. Yeah.
So the idea is, worst case is that something like that happens, and then those guys, and despite whatever talent or experience or a combination of both come in, it's still a step down, because you're going from a potential first-round pick, Heisman candidate, to unknowns. And
I think to distance myself from the rule breaker over here, I'm going to say something a little different and say, for me, a worst case is kind of two things. A worst case is that it's more a program systemic thing and choices that Beamer has made, because ultimately whatever happens with this team is on the head coach. So, this team at the quarterback position somehow very much underperforms, that's on coach. And that could damage him and his standing long term and all of that. I mean, I think we're all so sold on him. He's got 3 years in my book. But what do I know? Fan bases can flip, and we've seen massive coaches get massive contracts and they get fired right away. So anything can really happen. I don't think so with our fan base and our team, but that would be part of the worst case, is that coach is damaged from this. And then secondly, I think a bigger worst case for me is LaNorris is awesome and maybe would be a Heisman, but the team around him is failing him. The O-line is bad. The running game is shit. Every wide receiver has got waffle irons for hands, and nobody is stepping up around him, and he's doing it all so hard that he hurts himself, or he's exhausted and can't wait to leave because look, I'm fucking great. I don't know what's going on with everybody else. That to me, again, systemic. The locker room losing, people fighting, shit like that. That's when it gets really bad.
Here's a great point then. Those things that are the worst case scenarios, like you said, like either a locker room failing, a coaching failing, position groups not living up to expectations, based on everything that we've heard from summer workouts, fall camp, some of the stuff that we've perused on the message boards, hearsay, insiders, all that. I think those things are less likely to happen. So if we're going on that range and we got best case scenario at 11, worst case scenario at 1, we are more likely going to hit towards the best case. Out of 1 to 11, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I think LaNorris does take that step. I think he commands a good offense.
Yeah.
I don't give it a perfect 11 only because we still have to play these first couple of games. You can never count out.
Right, and there is a lot of unknowns for this team at certain positions. We had a lot of guys drafted. We went through that. Watch our draft episodes.
So that makes sense. So
yeah,
as much as I think if it was entirely up to LaNorris and everything was in a vacuum, it's easy to say that it's 11. He is just that talented. But because of the unknowns, with the experience with the rest of the squad, first time OC under Mike Shula, you got to go say 9.5. We are
and Buster, great little segue that I just wanted to throw something in there. We can even do a best case, worst case for our new OC. There's a new that's not a position group on the field, but we also I threw in Beamer there almost as another best worst case. He could either have it and everybody is bought in or not and loses things a little in the locker room, whatever. That's a little bit of best case, worst case. But our new OC too. I mean, we had some newish news for us. We don't usually have breaking news because we record the show weekly. But about contracts with Nike for gear. That's something our new OC is bringing from the Oregon Ducks. You were reminding me about that. That is systemic stuff. That is stuff that an OC is doing that is furthering the program. I mean, guys are going to want to play here even more because it's a place to come and win in the SEC. I can get NIL money. They got cool sponsorships with gear. Those are reasons people want to play here. And that's what an OC is supposed to do, right?
There are players that would love to play with the swoosh on the side of their shoe, on the back of their helmet, on the front of their jersey, much more than they would play with our previous contract. So, and here's a little insider information, guys. If you were watching this podcast, you're going to get some inside information from this guy. I have a close contact.
We're not even charging.
No, shit, give it away. Just give it away.
All right.
Give it away.
Check this. This is what I have heard from a couple years ago, that the current contract we have, I'm not going to name names. Anybody can go and look it up. I have a close contact that did a commercial shoot with some of our athletes with the apparel that we are currently wearing, and I heard that the apparel was not comfortable, was not sustainable for an athletic type of workout, so to speak. That the apparel company, the people that they brought in as reps to help manage this commercial were not professional. So it looks like the current apparel company that we have may not have been invested in what they want as best for our program. And maybe we get better stuff, better apparel, better quality equipment from this new contract.
Who was in charge of buying our uniforms back in 2015? George Costanza, when he was on the Yankees?
Yeah. All right. I just want to add a little disclaimer here. All views on the show are not the property of Alumni Game. We're not at fault for anything, nor is this or that or the 1972 Miami Dolphins,
Why don't that little tidbit I just gave would be the thing that pops this one off.
That just completely shuts us down,
Yeah.
It goes to those color bars from the 90s,
All right, now we got quarterbacks out of the way. I think
Yeah, done with that. Had a lot of fun there.
Sam, talk about the other most important position in the offensive backfield.
All right, so we're going to go running back.
Best case scenario. Yeah.
Running back. All right, so we had some good news come out recently. Rahsul Faison has been cleared, transferred from Utah.
Hallelujah.
So that came out, about a week or two ago?
How mind-numbing was that?
He was cleared to practice. He's not cleared to play yet. Cleared to play is coming down, but he's been able to practice with the team as if he's going to play.
I literally want to put that right there with like the Rashee Rice drama going on in the NFL. Like, we can't decide. We don't know. It's a bargain. We're going to talk about it. Like, I don't even want to know what happened there. I want to put that behind me and never remember about any of that, you know?
So you gotta imagine, though, that because he's cleared to practice, that bodes well for him, at least on the field this year in uniform in 12 games. Look,
and the motivation to be like, kind of F you, I'm going to go out there and kill it.
Of course, yeah. So this is a little, let's just break down the room a little bit, right? So if we talk about Faison right there, the transfer. We also have Isaiah Augustave, I believe I pronounced that correctly, transferred. Addaway, we saw him in the bowl game, and Howell. Those are probably going to be the bulk of the carries. I believe Matt Fuller also will probably get some carries. Best case, worst case, this is actually going to be probably, Mike, you're on to something here about the question mark. The big question mark here, definitely in the backfield, perhaps the entire offense. Best case, we see a nice running back by committee. Not necessarily a certain bell cow, but certainly some nice change of paces between Faison can be that guy. But you want to get Addaway.
Well, different roles for each one.
Right, different roles. You want to
one guy's the pounder, one guy's like the third down, one guy's the passing guy.
Guys find exactly what their wheelhouse is. You got the third down back. You got the guy that can block for seven.
Obviously, gonna need some of them playing special teams. That's a beamer special.
You got a so you have like a running back by committee that goes can stay fresh late in the games too. Right, we saw so many times, specifically thinking about that Missouri game where we scored. Like, I know it was a pitch to Rocket, but at the end of the day, though, you got to have those legs that churn, and so you can run over the defensive linemen and linebackers. Especially if you're up by like 10 against LSU with like 8 minutes left in the swamp, you want to make sure you grind it down. You want to grind it down right in Death Valley.
And you make a good point with Rocket. I see Faison a lot like Rocket, a guy transferring into the program, trying to rehab his value, like wasn't sure if he could play anymore, new lease on life. Maybe all of that motivates him in the same way that like Rocket was motivated,
I hope so. So if we say best case, I don't think our ceiling is nearly as high as our quarterbacks. In fact, I'm willing to bet my entire $0 paycheck on that, is that they are not. So I'm going to say best case is actually going to be a 7. If they really find a groove, if they really find all of their what they're good at, what each player can bring to the table, what their specialty is, and they do a running back by committee. But that being said, the no true bell cow, like the way Rocket was in the fourth quarters last year, it's really kind of got me a little concerned, specifically if we're going to rely on Sellers in that pass game to score some points. You can't just be one-dimensional. So if you've got some guys that aren't blocking correctly for Sellers, they maybe aren't necessarily taking pitches correctly, right? It's a new offense, like you guys said. I don't anticipate that Faison's going to, like I said, I think he's going to play. I don't anticipate it being a problem for him to know the playbook. That being said, he hasn't had a whole lot of practice time with everyone. He'll get better as the game goes on. I think this is probably our lowest floor. So my worst case scenario is no one gels. We get really pass heavy and predictable, which could lead to some interceptions from Sellers. Not too worried about his head, though. LaNorris Sellers has a great head. Worst case, 2. Hate to say it.
I feel that. I also feel like, just as a kicker for the other ones, that like a little side pot, that this one is connected to all the others in the way the other ones aren't, right? Like when you resize a picture and you lock it and you change one thing and everything else changes. I feel like if the running game is terrible, we have to throw more, and Sellers could hurt for that. And I feel like if the O-line is terrible, you can't run at all. If the tight ends can't block, you're not running as well, and you need to protect LaNorris more, and these guys are more blockers. I also feel like we didn't put special teams on this list, even though, maybe, we don't want to run way over here into 4 episodes of offense, because we probably could. But I just feel like any other position that's bad, that's going to hurt the running game even more. And if the running game is a 2, every other position group comes down a notch, because you become, like you said, one-dimensional, and it's all LaNorris having to do everything, including running.
I definitely agree with you. I'm following suit with you, Sam, because the idea is from everything I've heard this summer and into fall camp, Faison is elite as far as a running back. Like you're getting someone that has the abilities that we saw with Rocket, the cut, the speed, the explosiveness, all those different things. So if he becomes eligible, best case scenario, he is a true 3-down back. He gets the chunk plays like Rocket. We get some change of pace with Addaway, maybe some short yardage with Addaway. Jawan Howell, Matt Fuller, and Augustave, the transfer from Colorado. He comes in as a great – I heard he's very strong and very fast. He's shown up in a lot of highlights from fall camp. So you get a change of pace with those guys where you have a good stable that you're able to handle the rigors of an SEC schedule. So that's best case. Worst case to me, like you said, Faison doesn't find eligibility because the NCAA is a bunch of crooks and stupid. We don't have a true bell cow. The one issues that we're probably seeing with Jawan Howell, Matt Fuller, and Augustave is that they may be lacking in pass pro. So then when we become one-dimensional, we can't necessarily handle a blitz because the running back can't pick up the blitz.
Yeah. And things are just a little out of sorts that Sellers doesn't come as comfortable, right?
So, but with all that said, I really, based on some intel that I'm hearing, between the message board, some of the insiders, the Faison decision is going to come down within the next week. They say he's going to be eligible. There was that tweet by his lawyer that basically told the NCAA, make a decision or I'm coming after you. I think Faison becomes eligible. I think that strengthens that running back room. We have dynamic playmaking ability from there. So I'm going 7.5 to 8. And I don't think, even on the worst case scenario, I don't think it's that low because, let's say that like that worst case is that there is those lapses in pass pro and things like that. Those guys still have talent. Augustave still has talent. Jawan Howell, Matt Fuller, very dynamic. And Oscar Addaway is a veteran with a very stable and steady presence. So even if Faison doesn't become eligible, it's not as low as a 1. The floor for me would be like a 2 or a 3. But I really think with Faison being eligible, we're at 7 or 8.
No, and I agree. I want to say last year, I mean, I don't believe that Rocket was a true bell cow last year. So we're kind of used to that. We have some consistency, at least in terms of the OC has been on the staff, so it's not like a total change in other places. Like I'm pretty resolute that the Detroit Lions can't get back to where they were last year because they changed their OC. That's just kind of like a lock in NFL. In college, it's not as much, and not for us because he's so familiar with the program already. So I feel you guys. I don't want to sound alarm bells, but I think if we're highlighting something here that needs work, that feels a little rough, it's a running back room, and we'll know more soon. And that's just been part of the new NCAA that we're a part of. Is there's all this eligibility stuff and guys transferring and the portal and NIL and this just whole new world. So all right, I think we've spent enough time on maybe the worst position group, or at least the lowest we might go. Moving on to wide receivers, a lot of excitement actually for this. Some veterans here, some new guys coming up, some players related. I'm really interested to see how the sellers to sellers could make out. But who's someone else here for you, Buster, that kind of just stands out? Either like breakout potential. You might take charge. Starting with Harbor, if that's who you want to go with.
So the thing is, this is the position group that I think I'm the least worried about, only in the sense of you have a great mix of veterans that are still dynamic playmakers, Nyck Harbor, Mazio Bennett, Jared Brown, Brandrevius Jacobs. You have excellent newcomers, Malik Clark, Jordan Gidron, Donovan Murph, Jaden Sellers, Brian Rowe, and those guys are phenomenal athletes. They were all 4-star receivers. They were all they had multiple offers from big-time programs, and they chose us. So for me, best case is the offseason that Harbor spent on the football field rather than the track pays dividends. He becomes a matchup nightmare with his blazing speed and his superior size. 6'5", 235, runs like a 10-2, 10-1, 40 or 100-meter dash, which it translates to like a 4.2, 4.40. So Nyck Harbor takes that next step, having an offseason of training. Mazio continues to be an elite, dynamic wide receiver. Jared Brown comes off. Last year he was injured a lot, and I think that slowed a lot of what he was capable of doing last year. He comes back. He's injury-free this year. and Vandrevius Jacobs, who's also dynamic just as much as Mazeo Bennett. Those guys play well, and because they play well, they get separation, they get the catches, they get the yards, they get the touchdowns, and you're able to bring along your freshmen slowly without throwing them in the fire. And then you have a couple of freshmen that surprise you. I'll tell you this right now. I guarantee you're going to see either Brian Rowe or Donovan Murph make some noise this year. Those guys are very dynamic, and from what I've heard in fall camp, they are showing up and showing out.
That's dope.
To me, best case scenario is at 11. I'm sitting at a solid 10. I don't go. We never go full 11 yet.
Yeah, I think I'm with you.
You can see our breakdown of the wide receiver room that we did earlier this year.
Yes.
Bookbusters analysis. Just click the link right up here or down in the comments.
Yep. And then we've even talked all-time wide receivers, if you want to check that out and want to weigh in there. We're hoping one of these guys can climb up onto that list eventually. It's going to take a lot to do that. I mean, we're going to need Mazeo to be a Mazeo. We're going to need Maison to be the real Little John. I mean, we're going to need a lot out of this group. I'm working on more nicknames, but Mazeo, I mean, come on, that's pretty good. I like that. So, I mean, there's some other guys in this group. I like what you're saying about Brian Rowe. I've been hearing about that. Like I said, I'm very interested in the sellers to sellers. Like, you got to think this QB wants to help his brother out if he can. He doesn't want to hurt the team. But if there's a connection there and they're working together like 24/7, which I'm picturing like Rob Gronkowski with his brothers. There was stuff people said when he got on the Patriots that he had a house and they slept in bunk beds and him and his brothers were just, I'm picturing something like that, like, oh, we got lots of room for activities, but also, that's just exciting to me, and that's the culture that we have. And there's a lot of excitement in this room, and you feel like they're all going to try to one-up each other, and that just makes them all better anyway.
Yeah.
We won't have to discuss too much because, again, our listeners need to tune into that wide receiver episode if they really want to know
catch up.
Sam,
it's our most watched.
What would happen, though?
Good hand.
Sam, what would happen if we were at the best case? What do you think is the worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario, even though I know with all these guys got a good head on their shoulders, there's only one ball to go around, and people are getting upset they're not getting a ball. Look, we know what wide receivers can be
Good
divas.
point.
I'm not saying that Mazeo or Brian Rowe or any of these guys are divas, or Nyck Harbor definitely, but if we see the Nyck Harbor show starting early and he's getting the ball, he's getting 10, 11, 12 targets, you might see some guys kind of, I don't want to say diva out, but maybe they get out of rhythm a little bit, right? So all of a sudden you've got the same 2 or 3 guys that Sellers feels comfortable with. I don't know if his brother's going to, eventually get in there. I imagine he will, but this wide receiver room is really, really stacked outside. I mean, even without Nyck.
It's tough to go too low here. It really is. When you got Sellers throwing the rock.
I think the only thing that would slow down besides injuries would be a couple wide receivers not staying in rhythm, the numbers going down a little bit there, and we get a little
because that can lead to picks or whatever. And then, like we said, I think the running game here.
Same thing with the running backs, getting a little too predictable with the same players over and over again.
Yeah,
I think that might be a concern of mine. But look, I gotta agree with you, Buster. I think it's up there. I think I'm not gonna go with. I think you're at a 10. I'm gonna go with an 8. I'm a little bit more confident about the quarterback position. I'm gonna go with an 8.
Okay, yeah, no, that sounds good, and I like what you said because. One of the things that I always thought about is when we would have what we thought would be a really good receiver, with speed, talent, athletic, all that. It's getting separation on your routes. You still got to be a good route runner. So you're not fully
even when you're away from the ball, you got to do all the things you got to do.
You're off rhythm. You're not clicking. You're not running good routes, and all of a sudden you can't get separation, and you don't get a passing game. But we got too much talent there, and I think these guys are going to pick up the freshmen.
And that's a great segue to take us over to the last offensive position there, other than the line, which we'll get to, our tight ends.